The One Ring. It was just a ring until it wasn't. What came next? Hollowed kings into crawling shadows. At first glance, it looks harmless. A plain golden band without jewels or markings. A trinket anyone could overlook. But this wasn't a gift of craftsmanship. It was Sauron's will-made metal, a prison of malice disguised as beauty. Slip it onto your finger, and the world doesn't open up. It closes in. The ring whispers. It tells you your ambition is noble. It convinces you your paranoia is wisdom. Every time you wear it, the shadows deepen, but you swear your vision is sharper. That's the trap. The ring doesn't grant power, it borrows you, hollowing your choices until you mistake its hunger for your own. Kings were promised kingdom. Wizards were promised knowledge. Hobbits only wanted peace. But the ring devoured them all equally. The Nine Kings became wraiths, tethered to Sauron's chain. Gollum wasn't a warning, he was the inevitable ending. His flesh wasted, his soul stripped, his name forgotten until nothing was left but obsession. And here lies the horror. The ring never forces you. It lets you believe every step into damnation was your choice. That's why it's more terrifying than orcs, trolls, or even Sauron himself. Because Middle-earth's greatest monster isn't the Dark Lord. It's the one who believes they can resist the ring, and fails. But another artifact didn't just whisper. It wrote your fate in ink. The Death Note. It was just a notebook, until it wasn't. What came next? Rewrote justice into obsession. Dropped carelessly by a Shinigami, the Death Note looks like any other schoolbook. Black cover, white pages, neat instructions. But its power is absolute. Write a name, picture the face, and let life end. No noise, no struggle, just silence. A pen becomes an executioner's blade. For Light Yagami, it was temptation wrapped in leather. At first, his cause seemed righteous, cleansing criminals, reshaping society into his vision of perfection. Each death felt like progress, each victory like justice. But the more he wrote, the less of himself remained. The Death Note doesn't only kill bodies, it kills boundaries. Light's paranoia grew. He trusted no one. Every ally was a pawn, every rival a threat. The notebook had promised order, but it delivered chaos. And the cruelest trick? The Death Note never corrupts with whispers like the ring. It doesn't seduce. It simply offers you a choice and watches as you become the monster willingly. The horror isn't the deaths it causes. It's how quickly its user begins to think like a god. Until paranoia replaces reason. Until obsession replaces compassion. Until justice becomes indistinguishable from tyranny. And when the final page closes, no one remembers the boy who opened it, only the shadow he left behind. But some artifacts don't simply kill. They open doors to something waiting on the other side. The Soul Edge, hunger shaped like a sword. Soul Edge isn't a sword so much as a parasite shaped like steel. An eye opens in the blade. It watches. It waits. It whispers bargains that sound like mercy. End your enemy, end the war, end your fear. Grip the hilt, and your pulse becomes a metronome for slaughter. With every life it takes, the blade grows heavier, because it's carrying what it ate. Siegfried wanted absolution. He found a mask named Nightmare. The armor didn't arrive after the choice, it arrived as the choice. The more he swung, the less he slept, until the voice in the blade was the only quiet he trusted. Villages burned. Friends stared through him like glass. Soul Edge doesn't seduce with power alone. It offers a story where your worst impulse is suddenly the noble path. There is a cure, but it isn't gentle. Soul Calibur resists, purifies, shatters the lies, but the fight isn't steel on steel. It's identity against infection. Shards of Soul Edge scatter into the world like seeds. Each fragment finds a hand already cracked by grief or rage and calls itself destiny. That's the horror. The blade doesn't create darkness. It organizes it. You don't wield Soul Edge, you become the sheath it wears. And when it's done, it leaves, still hungry, still telling the next wielder they're different. A spear that pierced divinity and was repurposed to end humanity. Horcruxes and the Sword of Gryffindor. Immortality isn't life, it's leftovers. A Horcrux sounds like triumph. Hide a fragment of yourself and never die. But the spell isn't clever, it's cannibalism. Murder tears a hole. The caster stuffs a screaming piece of soul into an object and smiles at the echo. The body walks away. The person doesn't. Each fragment dulls what's left. Love thins, joy dries. Paranoia blooms. Voldemort didn't cheat death, he multiplied it. And still, every shield finds its spear. The Sword of Gryffindor isn't just relic metal with a noble name. Goblin-made, it absorbs what makes it stronger. Venom, power, purpose. Bathe it in basilisk poison and it drinks. Raise it against corruption and it answers. In the chamber, in the forest, in the final siege, the blade didn't simply cut. It unstitched the lie of immortality. That's the tension fans feel, but rarely name. Horcruxes promise safety, yet breed fear. The sword promises nothing, yet brings endings. One is a vault you die inside. side. The other is a verdict. Harry and friends weren't just hunting objects. They were hunting decisions. Each cursed thing a receipt for a crime. And each strike of that sword wasn't destruction. It was restoration. The soul goes where it belongs. The world exhales. But power hates being corrected. And some artifacts don't forgive the hand that holds them. A wand so perfect it chooses masters, then buries them. The Necrosword. It was a whisper in the dark. Until it was a blade. What came next? Butchered gods and branded the stars with silence. In the oldest nights before temples had names, a shadow forged a weapon from living darkness. The Necrosword isn't steel. It's absence sharpened. It pours over a hand like ink and hardens into murder. Wield it, and you don't swing metal. You swing a promise that light can't keep. Gore found it on a dead sky. A grieving man. A faith snapped in half. The sword answered the wound behind his ribs and made it erode. With each god he struck down, black tendrils bloomed, birthing beasts building armor, threading his veins with void. Power came fast. Cost came faster. The blade didn't merely obey. It fed on divinity, on memory, on the thin places that keep realities stitched. Here's the trick fans feel but rarely name. The Necrosword doesn't corrupt a pure heart. It crowns a broken one. Rage becomes doctrine. Pain becomes purpose. And the sword smiles without a mouth because it finally has a priest. Even gods fear it. Thor bleeds. Pantheons shutter their doors. The cosmos learns a new vocabulary for loss. And when the wielder hesitates, the blade does not. It moves through him like night through a window, reminding him who's truly in charge. Some artifacts tempt you with gift. This one offers an ending, not just for gods, for the stories that need them. Close your hand around it, and you don't hold a weapon. You hold the dark that writes the last line. Berserker Armor. Defense can be the most violent choice. Cursed gear promises safety with a whisper. Block the blow, live another day. In grim worlds, that bargain warps fast. Shields that drink poison, plates that seal too tight, sigils that stop the wound but seed the rot. You lift your guard. Something else lifts you. And slowly, you're not wearing the shield. The shield is wearing you. The Berserker armor makes the trade explicit. Slip it on and pain goes mute. Broken bones straighten. Torn muscles keep pulling. Blood becomes an afterthought. You move like a storm tearing its own sails. Friends look into the visor and don't see you. They see a thing that only understands forward. The armor doesn't ask permission. It draws a boundary around your rage and calls it a road. You follow until there's no one left to fight, or nothing left of you to take it off. That's the horror fans feel in their gut. Defense that demands a self-tax. You win the battle, sure, you lose the receipt in your ribs. And when the rush fades, the damage remains, nerve by nerve, memory by memory. Cursed shields, berserker plates, miracle wards, each sells the same lie. Survive now, count the cost later. Later always arrives. It brings a bill with your name on it. Some artifacts break the body. These break the break. Next, a blade that swears loyalty, then teaches you to love blood. The Ebony Blade. Merlin and Sir Percy forged legend from a meteor. A starstone fell from the heavens, a core of magic and dark promise. From that metal, the Ebony Blade was born. Not just a weapon, but a mirror. It cuts through armor, dimension, magic, but its greatest edge is over the soul. When Sir Percy first wielded it for Camelot, the blade demanded blood. Each strike seared into the wielder's spirit. The curse formed. Whoever drew blood with the blade tasted more than flesh. Madness, rage, shadow. Each life extinguished etched itself into the sword's obsidian abyss. Percy's fall was written in the blade's vein. Centuries later, Dane Whitman inherits it, believing he can master both sword and self. He's tested. When Namor kills his own wife with it, the curse reignites. The blade doesn't force his hand, but it fans his darkest storms. It doesn't corrupt you. It amplifies what you already are. Greed, pain, vengeance. The horror hides in that distinction. The Ebony Blade doesn't turn good men evil. It takes broken men and makes them godlike. It demands control, even when its whispers tear you apart. Connections to its past echo. Percy's spirit visits. The blood debt looms. The blade remembers who you could be. Because a cursed sword isn't a tool. It's a testament. And some tales aren't wielded. They live in you. Next, a weapon born of soul. A blade that feeds on life itself. The Lament Configuration. Curiosity isn't harmless. It has teeth. On the surface, it seems harmless. A black cube etched with strange symbols. A curiosity for collectors. But this is no toy. It is a key, a gateway. Solve its twisted puzzles and you don't just unlock secrets, you unlock suffering. Legend says it was crafted by Philip Le Marchand, a toy maker whose obsession birthed horror. Some versions claim he used human bone and fat to infuse the box with power. The minute you twist its panels, the clock starts. The box hums, quiet, accusing. A summons to beings that exist between dimensions. Open one chamber and pain seeps in. Another twist and the Cenobites arrive. Creatures beyond mercy, their flesh an architecture of agony. They They don't negotiate. They redeem no soul. They dissect hopes, demand torments, drag victims into hellish labyrinths where time fractures and screams echo eternal. The horror of the Lament Configuration isn't only the Cenobites. It's how the box entices you. Curiosity becomes guilt. Fascination becomes addiction. A damnation signed with your own fingers. Kings, criminals, healers, none who solved it remained whole. Power comes at the loss of self. But the darkest whisper, some boxes change shape, demand sacrifice, and punish those who think they can outsmart hell. And the next artifact? It doesn't open hell. It devours souls, one strike at a time. The Spear of Longinus, in legend, a Roman spear pierced the side of Christ, blood and water a sign, a story called Destiny. Touch it, some said, and empires tilt. Hold it, and history forgets to argue. That's the old fear, a relic that doesn't just kill, it decides. Evangelion rewrites the myth with cold machinery and red metal. The Spear of Longinus isn't a museum piece, it's a god-killer shaped like a double helix, a spiral that laughs at physics. When it flies, it ignores distance. When it strikes, it bypasses defenses no tank or prayer can break. Fields fold like paper. Angels fall like statues pushed from a height. And every impact leaves a cruciform scar in the sky, as if the world remembers the first wound and copies it. But power is never single use. The spear doesn't only end monsters, it edits fate, thrown into moons, retrieved from graves, duplicated into variations that split meaning itself, Longinus, Cassius. It becomes a lever for instrumentality, the end of loneliness by the end of individuality, mercy recoded as erasure. That's the terror this artifact embodies across myth and anime. The weapon that claims to heal by removing what hurts? Us. A cure sharpened into extinction. Some relics tempt your hand. This one tempts your definition of good. And if a spear can rewrite a world, what happens when a sword is forged to kill gods on purpose? The Elder Wand. The Elder Wand arrives like a rumor. Unbeatable power, a lineage of victors, its polished myth carved into wood, thestral tail hair inside Elder, death's own signature in the grain. Duel with it and spells hit harder, shields hold longer. The room bends toward you as if the air has chosen a side. You don't win, you overwhelm. But the wand's trick isn't strength, it's hunger disguised as destiny. Ownership must be taken, not given, which means every new master inherits a target. Wizards start sleeping with one eye open. Friends become threats, and the quiet creak on the stair becomes the sound of inheritance, arriving with a wand drawn. The Elder Wand doesn't serve you. It parades you, right up to a violent transfer of title. Dumbledore tried to cage it with wisdom. Grindelwald tried to crown himself with it. Voldemort tried to bully it into obedience. All three learned the same lesson. The wand's loyalty is technical, not emotional. It follows rules colder than love, older than fear. Beat a man, and the wood bends. Cheat the rule, and it snaps back with interest. That's why its legend persists, because it promises certainty to those terrified of doubt. And that's why it killed, because certainty invites challengers like lightning invites thunder. Some relics corrupt the soul, this one exposes it. Armor that doesn't defend its wearer, it eats him alive.
Subscribe for more interesting stuff. Tell us your experience in the comments.